Hi, I'm Melanie Barr. Welcome to the She Built It Experience with Melanie. You're here because you want to experience the life and business that you crave. Join me as I talk to women who have successfully built it, a career and business that they love. We dive into the topic of how they built it and talk about everything from having the courage to make career leaps to the details of how to lead effectively, create successful teams, implement strategies for growth, and infuse tech innovation. Magic happens when we focus on the part of ourselves and our business that brings us joy. So let's dive in. I am so thrilled to welcome Nanea Reeves. Nanea is the CEO of TRIPP, an award-winning digital therapeutic platform designed to address mental health and emotional health. Prior to TRIPP, she held senior leadership roles at Electronic Arts as SVP Global Online, President of TextPlus, Chief Strategy Officer at Gaikai, which was acquired by Sony, COO of Machinima, which was acquired by Warner Brothers, and more. She's one of the few women in the video game industry to lead large-scale tech initiatives, and she frequently speaks on why more girls should play video games as a path for getting more females into STEM. Nanea, your career path is so interesting, and we can't wait to dive into our conversation. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Melanie. It's so nice to see you. I think I met you when I was working at Gaikai in Orange County.
It's so nice to see you too. And it's really fun to follow your career and see all of your success. When looking back at the times when you made the larger career leaps in your life, when you accepted your role at Electronic Arts at TextPlus, and when you were at companies that were acquired, what gave you the courage to make those leaps and to keep making the leaps throughout your career?
I've just kind of approached it like software development in the sense that it's best just to get a prototype of what your thoughts are so you can analyze it. And then if you can get an audience to start trying it and giving you real-time feedback, the product will evolve from there. And in many ways, like that's been my approach to my career. It's been pretty organic. I followed where I was interested. I've always loved technology, playing video games and experimenting with those interfaces in my own personal life. And that curiosity has led me to a wonderful career of working with technology. The big leaps in my career have been facilitated by experimentation, trying to say yes to new ideas, and then allowing myself really to show up. Courage comes after you do something you're really terrified to do. I thought for a long time I had to wake up one day and feel confident, and then I could step up and raise my hand for, I want to be a part of that. But really, it's just jumping in and trying to figure it out. And then you go, I was afraid of that, but now I'm so much more confident about just being here.
You're so right. And that's such good advice, because usually it's that first leap or that first step that is the most difficult and challenging to do.
And then the confidence shows up after, and you realize you didn't die. And,
right, exactly.
And then it gets easier and easier. It's like public speaking, right? Which is scary for anyone. Anybody who tells you it's not scary is not being fully honest. When I first started speaking publicly as part of my job, my hands would shake. I'd have to cram them into my pockets or clutch them behind my back to get grounded. And every time I did it, I was less and less fearful. And now it's really something I'm much more comfortable with. I've grown into it by doing it.
Thank you for being so honest and real about that, because someone who sees you speaking and speaking about your company and your career experiences might think, that's so easy for her, but it might not be for me. So thank you for being so real, because the more you do it, you're right, the easier it gets.
Yeah, somebody was showing me some virtual reality products where they help you face your fear so you can stand in front of a public audience in VR and safely kind of navigate the dry mouth and the shaking hands.
So interesting what's available to us today.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about what you do at TRIPP?
I'm CEO of TRIPP. TRIPP is still an early stage startup, but we're starting to get a lot of love from our users on what we're doing. You can download TRIPP on the Oculus App Store. It's a virtual reality product. You can also download it on the PlayStation App Store if you have a PlayStation VR device. And you'll start to see us expand into augmented reality on the new smart glasses. What we do at TRIPP is in the virtual reality goggles right now that you can purchase. They're so affordable. The Oculus Quest is only $299. It was a very popular gift over the holidays. And in our experience, you go into virtual reality and into TRIPP, and we create this really safe container for you to connect to yourself. We incorporate sound frequencies and almost psychedelic, meditative environments that are all designed based on scientific research that we've referenced to influence our design choices to help you decompress, relax, sharpen your focus. And we're now starting to experiment with different ways to expand into mobile content that's way beyond just listening to a voice recording telling you to close your eyes and relax. We're experimenting with new approaches to hacking different states of being and consciousness and really giving yourself agency over how you feel.
That's so interesting about taking meditation to the next level. You're using technology as a way to meditate and a way to step away from it with technology involved.
Yeah. And so it was actually based on my own life experience. I grew up pretty chaotic environment. My mother was a heroin addict. And as a result, my sisters and I were pretty neglected. And in some ways that built a lot of strength because I had to figure things out as the oldest child. But what I found, I'm that first generation of teenagers that went to the arcade and played video games, right? As soon as they showed up, I had every game console, because what I found was, for me, it was a way to escape. But even more importantly, it was a way for me to feel in control of my environment. And there are a lot of positives around playing video games, and I've spoken publicly around this. But for me, it was a mental health support tool during a time of crisis as a young person. And then I was very fortunate from a psychiatric kind of meltdown I had as a teenager because of the conditions of my family life and my inability to really know how to manage all of that. I just didn't have the tools. And I met a therapist at a hospital that I was in, and she taught me how to meditate. And this was way before the McMindfulness of today, where you get like dry. And I love all that stuff because I think it's lowered the barrier of entry, and it's got people thinking about taking care of their emotional and mental well-being. But for me, it was a game changer because I could see that meditation helped me really rewire my decision framework, and I started to make better choices in my life. With TRIPP, what happened to me was about 5 years ago, I was really happily married to a wonderful man. We'd been together a really long time, and he was suddenly diagnosed with terminal cancer. And we were told we had 8 months together, and he was gone in 8 weeks. And
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. One thing I know about loss is it's something that we all deal with, especially with if we have a full life that's filled with people who love us. And loss is an effect of having great love. But as we navigated that journey together, and then ultimately I found myself alone on the other side of it and navigating that journey, I could see the value of my meditation practice as well as my love for technology in a way that, as I thought about how I wanted to rebuild my life on my own, the idea to build a company that would have tools that could help people navigate these difficult life challenges in a way that was easier than kind of the very long journey I went through with meditating and developing a practice that really showed up for me when I needed it the most. I felt mission focused, that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my career, was to be part of the force for good by using technology for good. That's how we started TRIPP.
I'm so happy for you. And it sounds like you're living your joy because you're bringing your love of video games and meditation together. And what a wonderful thing for you. And as a mom of 7-year-old twins, I have a girl and a boy, and my son is playing more video games than ever before because we're all at home and he's at homeschooling and on tech more than ever. I'm curious your advice for young girls, because my daughter is not as much into the video games as my son. But what advice would you give young girls? Because I could see how it would be an entry for STEM.
Oh, 100%. It's not like you can say, hey, lady, start coding. Playing video games, there's a lot of research that if you get involved in them before age 12, you can develop spatial reasoning skills. So this is why it's actually very critical for female children to be oriented toward technology interfaces, because otherwise what's going to happen as the world and industries become more and more computerized, females in the workplace will always be on a second tier of support roles if they don't have technical skills. So that digital divide will probably impact our ability to have parity in the workplace more than anything. And so it's really important. And I have seen wonderful women enter the workplace now who grew up playing games like Minecraft, which they see themselves as builders and makers. They're working with little toolkits that look a lot like grown-up software toolkits. They're influenced by that. And so it's really important to get girls into those interfaces in early. And if we have awareness, we can see how we kind of migrate them, even unconsciously, away from those things. And boys are much more encouraged. I always think of this stupid JPEG somebody sent me of a science fair, and it had like this whole program for the boys, and it had like robotics and this and that, like really fun stuff. And on the girls track, it just said science with the sparkle. And I just thought, wow, this is,
It's so good that you're bringing this up and to talk about this topic so openly.
Minecraft, Roblox, where you're building and making are really important. Goldie Blocks has really put an emphasis on building physical, mechanical toys that get girls' brains thinking that way. It's really weird. Maybe one of the byproducts of having a mom who was really checked out, she was sick. And now I understand she had mental health issues. As a kid, obviously, you look at your friend's mom and then your own mom kind of in the bathroom all the time and wonder what's wrong. But there's a weird benefit that I got from it was I didn't get a lot of programming from her on how a girl should be or how a girl should behave. And so my interest kind of just naturally, for fun, I would take apart the TV to try to figure out how it worked,
So great.
Yeah. And I like toys like Legos and playing chess that were, I guess, more boy toys.
One thing that's great about having twins is my son brings my daughter into those things. Like my son loves the Legos and gravitates towards that. But because of that, now my daughter is too. And Elliot will say, I want to be an architect. And Parker wants to be an architect now too. So that part has been really fun. And we're into Sudoku. And now they're getting into those kinds of games on the app.
Yeah, I love that because that's the kind of brain that you want to really develop. And obviously, I think there's like this weird narrative where girls kind of think that they're not good at math, et cetera. You have to be good at math to be good at business and to be a good leader. The data to understand is the math in business is not that hard, right? You might have to calculate a ratio or a percentage here, but it's mostly adding and subtracting.
And I had that exact conversation with my twins because my son would pick up the math super fast. And then my daughter started to say, I'm not good at math. And I said, Parker, do not say that because just because someone's learning at a different pace than you does not mean that you are not good at math. And then there was a time when, because we were Zooming and at home, she would go to my son to have him check her math. And I said, do not go to Elliot to check your math. I will check your math. So it's been really interesting to see that dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah, I noticed something really interesting because I have a lot of girlfriends who work in tech. So you tend to all know each other. And one thing we all had in common, we went to all girls schools, which I thought was really interesting. And maybe we learned differently because of brain chemistry. I'm not sure what the science is behind that at all. This is one of the things that I've said about playing video games. You learn how to fail. It's like incremental learning. In order to get through a game, you die over and over, right? But you die less over time, right? You figure, oh, okay, I got to start running before I hit those spikes a little longer. Like it's incremental learning. And that is a muscle, I think, that you learn in sports, you learn in playing video games, and we need girls to build that muscle.
That is so true. And I never thought about that. But the more you fail, the more you try. It's the same way with hearing the word no. Sometimes we don't try things because we're afraid to hear the word no. But that's so interesting as it relates to video games and teaching that perseverance.
Right. Incremental learning. I think maybe there's this sense like when your daughter's saying, I'm not good at math, she thinks there's some inherent knowledge that she doesn't have that her brother has.
Right. Because
Right.
she sees him pick it up so fast.
Yeah. But why is he picking it up so fast? Because he's probably playing math like games, right?
In preschool, I would put magnet tiles and Legos every day. I'd put something on the ground when he came home from preschool because I knew he would go straight to it and start building.
Right.
And Parker does the same thing. She would go and build with him. You've had so much success in your roles leading teams and scaling businesses. What is your strategy for management and staying on task to accomplish what you set out to do? And what is your approach for motivating teams and those around you?
Oh gosh, there's so much there to unpack. So, first of all, how do you get into the position to lead a team? There's a whole strategy to that, right? And how I have navigated that, I had to figure it out. No one gave me a playbook. And the more I felt dismissed, my attitude around like, why isn't anybody listening to me? And oftentimes I was the only woman in the room. And as a young woman, I was really frustrated with how do I get heard? And then I was at a company, they had a really strong data product team. And this was way before data products were readily available. And they used data in such a sophisticated way. And I got really curious about it. And I would just hang out with them in my off hours. And I was very young in my career. I was product manager at that time. And I said, will you show me what you're doing? I want to learn more about how you're analyzing the performance of applications. And it was from there that when I started showing up in the room with numbers, that people actually started hearing me. And so it was really like thinking about how do I present my ideas in ways that are focused around contribution, whether it's in the early part of my career, it wasn't so much about generating revenue, but I could figure out ideas that could save the company money, whether it was like speeding up operations or analyzing throughput, creating a tool. But if I wanted to do something that I could own, if I could show the impact of what it might have, that's when I started to get funding within an organization and getting more and more responsibility. And if anybody had any kind of bias against me at that time as a young female, even if it was an unconscious bias where they would be dismissive of my ideas, they couldn't dismiss the data that I was presenting, especially if I showed up with, I took the initiative to run a little test and here were the results. And this is what I think if I get $50,000 worth of budget, I could take it to this and it would have this impact. There was a way that I started to see that I could present my concepts that it was hard to say no. So you start building influence. One thing I'm starting to understand is that it really comes down to the energy that you're bringing in the room. I remember one day around the 2008 crisis, I was at a company and the stock had just gone down significantly in a couple of days. There was very real fear in the room. And I was really trying not to get jacked up by that fear and was just trying to use my meditation practice in that moment. And I remember the CEO, after we came up with a game plan, we were walking down the hallway and he said, I just have to say, I feel better when you're in the room. And there's something about that made me realize could be an anchor for my career, that if I show up with a good attitude, I'm fun to work with, but I'm always focusing on solutions and also making people feel safe around my initiatives, and that I'm also going to take care of my team. I found that this was something I could really evolve as a person. It made me happier at work, but it also became very much my authentic leadership style. It's easy enough to be a jerk by accident. I think it has to do with that energy, and then focus on really being a team player and contributing to an outcome, but also to have fun doing it.
All of your experiences have come together. You went to an all-girls school where I'm sure that was a collaborative environment, to a male-dominated industry where it's give me the facts and give me the numbers. And then your meditation in the room, making the team and those around you feel comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable with me first, which is its own thing. What I'm starting to learn now, and it's been a growth area for me as a leader, it's really important to create the psychological safety to build trust. And if the team trusts you as a leader and they trust each other, even if you're a small team of 8, you can build something great. And I believe that's what we've done. It's motivated by trying to help people. We have a mission. We have a feeling of a sense of purpose. We're all proud of what we're doing, not in an arrogant way, but more like we're making a real difference in people's lives, especially this past year. Some of the emails we've received from our customers, you'll see like our whole team will get tears in their eyes when they read them. People thanking us for helping them through this stressful year of 2020. That's been a growth area for me because it's sort of that hedge fund kind of mindset. I've worked for those kind of bosses where it's like, win at all costs, let's crush this. And I think that can make business fun. It's like the game of
it's fun to be competitive. It's okay to have a competitive nature, and it's okay for a woman to have a competitive nature.
100%.
Especially as it relates to business.
And it's super fun to win as a team.
And that becomes addicting too.
It does. And obviously you want to do it with integrity, and you also want to do it with compassion too, right? I'm constantly looking at how to be better, because as the power dynamic changes and you have more and more responsibility, it's not always a balanced conversation when someone's livelihood is dependent on you being receptive to them, right? And so I have realized that I have to be very mindful about those interactions, the damage you can create by giving someone feedback in a way that they might take it as criticism. And I'm not even intending to do that, but it's just the way I say things. So I've gotten coaching on this, and it's actually really helped.
You mentioned playing video games and meditation and how it's contributed to your life and success. Can you tell us why? And it seems like TRIPP might be the accumulation and birth of that.
What happened from playing games was this organic evolution of technical knowledge. You want to get online, you learn how to set up a community server, access one, how to mod games, modify them, just basic principles of networking. It just builds upon itself. And meditation for me has been an amazing consciousness hack. A lot of people approach meditation initially with the goal, I want to be calmer, I want to be more focused, I want to be better. It's more like a self-improvement mindset. But once you get into it with any kind of consistency, it can actually change the neural pathways in your brain. I think the research behind it is 27 minutes a day for 8 weeks, you can actually change your brain. And I found with it, when you have a consistent practice, your ability to be more self-aware shows up. That shift from looking at how you're being treated to how you're treating others, or maybe even how you're treating yourself with negative self-talk. Sometimes you might even need support through that process, because it can be very painful to see, oh, wow, the way I talk to myself in my own head is just so not helpful. In fact, it's abusive. Having that awareness, it's a huge transformation, because then you can start to see, how am I impacting others? How can I treat myself better? How can I treat those around me better? And it has this amazing ripple effect in the world. So that was a huge part of my life. My late husband was a very deep meditation practitioner. We both evolved into a Tibetan meditation practice that you do with your eyes open and really bring your awareness present, and start to learn how to integrate it all throughout your day. 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening is good. But what about all those landing pads you might need throughout the day to help anchor, to reset, connect to your breath, connect to really being present in the moment? Where I saw that really show up for me was, I was with my husband when he took his last breath. It was in his meditation room. We had brought him home so he could be more surrounded by love. And as I saw him leaving, there's that moment of wanting to grasp and kind of panic. And I was able to pause in that moment and allow this other thought to show up, rather than don't leave. It was more, show up with love in this moment for him. Don't let his last image in this life be someone he loves in despair.
What a powerful thought and moment. And thank you for telling us about taking it a step further, because you're right. I think a lot of us just think of it as surface, right? And not taking it a step further as to how we can be there for others and how we can rewire our brain to be better at doing so.
And you can't develop that muscle in that moment on the spot. It requires a dedicated practice to get there. But what that moment did for me was, it allowed me to show up fully for, and I get goosebumps thinking.
So wonderful that you could do that for him.
It was the most profound moment of our entire relationship. And I would have missed it had I caved into the emotion of what was happening with me.
That's so beautiful. So beautiful.
So that's the benefit, right? And obviously in our career, life is just all about being present, whether we're working and we're showing up for our families, we're showing up for ourselves. For me, that's what meditation gave me, was that gift. And so the concept for TRIPP was to help people use the power of VR, which is a full immersive hack, to get their minds present, connect to self, and then hopefully build that muscle to bring into their day-to-day. Because I think meditation's hard for a lot of people.
I'm really interested, and I really would love to try it. With twins, my life became so chaotic. And to the point of what you're saying, I realized early on, I have to be present in every moment or I'm not going to be good at anything, because the babies needed my attention. I wanted to work, so work needed my attention. Our family life needed my attention. And so I just had to become really good at being present in the moment. But I haven't been very good at taking as much time for myself as I probably should. And I know our listeners are probably thinking the same thing as far as how they can add meditation to their life. Tech has become such a part of our lives, and I was so excited about our conversation with you because I love learning about new tech, new platforms, new apps. Are there video games either for kids or adults that you can tell us about, or are there new apps or platforms that you use either for business or day-to-day that you love?
Great question. Games for kids where they are building is really important, because that's the foundation for future innovators,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we need all of our people over the next few decades really helping to solve some very big problems. And they need an innovative mindset. They need to see themselves as builders. That's why I love the name of your podcast.
Yes, thank you.
We need everyone thinking like that, even in their own lives. Like, how do I want to build my day to day? What do I want to focus on? I will say we are on the edge of a massive evolution of computing moving from the hand to the head. And these lighter weight head mounted display units or glasses or goggles are going to start hitting the market very soon. And it's going to transform the way we see the world. And this is very exciting to me because we've kind of been walking around for the last decade with our heads down, hunched over a small screen. So to be able to start looking out into the world and be able to have data on top of that is
so interesting.
It's going to be just imagine GPS on a glasses overlay in a way that's just telling you turn right and you're looking around as opposed to just looking down at your phone.
So fun to think about that. I had a client one time who told me, Melanie, someday a computer keyboard is just going to pop up into the air and you'll just be able to type in the air. And I remember thinking, and this was probably 10 years ago, he said this to me. I remember thinking what forward thinking that was and how he's probably right.
Oh, it's already happening.
Yeah. So interesting to think about all of those advances.
It's not mass market just yet, but within the next 5 years, it definitely will be.
And I love the thought of looking up and not looking down.
Yes, and it's going to drive a lot of innovation. We have to also make sure, though, there's a lot of ethics and responsibility and integrity, because the worst thing is sort of having advertising fly across your face all the time. Right?
Yes, we're already inundated enough.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the online marketing right now, it's really messed with our self-esteem in ways that I think is really unhealthy. So I want to unravel a lot of that and just kind of use those same mechanisms for promoting wellness.
That's such forward thinking. It's one of the reasons why I created the She Built It shop, because we're inundated by product offers, right? But I thought if I could create something based on the community where we're buying from women-owned and led businesses that we love, that takes some of that noise away. When you think, oh, I want to buy a gift for a friend or a treat for myself, buy from that shop rather than just all the other noise. Because you're right, it's so much noise today.
Yeah, and thinking about contribution support, one of the things we have been developing as we communicate with our customers is we just sent out an email to them. It was one of the first times we ever sent out an email campaign because we're mostly all hands-on code. We're a small company, but we're starting to move into the next phase of our company development. We're getting ready to hire a bunch of new people and scale because we're growing. But what we found was we sent out this email just saying to people, because last year a lot of companies went out of business.
A lot of women left the workforce, which I hated hearing.
With this email, we just thanked people for supporting our company. The inbound love we got back from that, because it's true, like it really meant a lot to us that people supported us, that I didn't have to lay off people, which would have been terrible for them to try to get new jobs, especially during the first 6 months of last year. I was very grateful that we were able to keep going and
it's great.
Keep building.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Since we all dream of travel and having a new, unique, and exciting experience outside of our day-to-day life, we'd love for you to take us on a quick mental journey. What is one of your favorite trips that you've ever been on? Where did you go and why did you love it?
So the first one is my husband built a monastery in rural Tibet, and we flew to China and then traveled over the scariest mountain roads ever. And I wanted to see what he built, and it was spectacular. But the condition, like I'm Hawaiian. I need to be at sea level, not 14,000 feet above sea level. I got so sick, but it was otherworldly. And the people were so beautiful and compassionate and just, I'll never forget it. I never thought I would ever even want to go there. I was motivated to really see what he had built and meet the people he was supporting. And
what an amazing thing for him to do. That's so beautiful.
That's a podcast in and of itself. Obviously, I wish he were here to tell you, but his whole life was transformed and he just got focused on really wanting to help others. About a year later, my cousin threw this amazing party for his mom's 65th birthday in the south of France. It was all expenses paid, like 15 of us, the most lavish, decadent 3 weeks in the south of France. And it was so much fun. And the fact that someone was gifting that to all of us was an amazing journey. And it goes back to that thing I was saying too about the energy that you bring into the room attracts the network and the people and the experiences in your life. And that's been a road of uncovering and discovery for me to find that. And the fact that when I was a child, it was almost as if all the cards were stacked against me, and finding my way out of that. And the fact that I do have an incredible life. I'm in a deep state of gratitude around it. I just, sometimes I don't even know how it happened.
Good for you. It seems like it taught you resilience and to be independent and look at the beautiful places, ending up in the south of France and Tibet.
Well, there's also been a lot of loss. I lost my sister to a drug overdose and, watched my husband go through cancer, which is so hard to watch someone you love struggle, whether it's with addiction or illness. You feel so powerless. It's like the worst feeling in the world. But I think what I'm starting to understand is that life is just life, and all of it is important and meaningful. If I hadn't had great love with my husband, I wouldn't have felt the tremendous loss after he was gone. And so it's just a different side of the same coin, which is connection and love and relationship.
Mm-hmm. And how lucky for you to have known such a great love.
I feel very fortunate. And I do have a new boyfriend. Well, he's not new now. It's 2.5 years. And he's very different from my husband, but we're madly in love. And
good.
Life does go on. And like what you were saying about feeling like you're not being good at certain things, or because you just have a lot of responsibility and scope, sometimes that pressure can stop us from actually really being here for what's really important,
We get distracted.
Mm-hmm. And by what,
Because it's really focusing on the things that are important in life, right?
Yeah. So in the She Built It community, helping other people's dreams, right? It's a contribution, and it's an opportunity to feel that you supported someone right now.
And it's one of my favorite things to do. I'm genuinely happy when I see friends and women in the She Built It family and community succeed. And I love being someone's biggest cheerleader because it can be lonely. Running and scaling and growing a business can be incredibly lonely. And I created She Built It so you don't have to feel that way. So there is someone in your corner that says there's room for everyone to succeed, and I'm so happy for you.
Yes. And so when I met you, I immediately liked you, and you were also involved with that nonprofit as well.
Step Up. And I think we met through Emily Della Maggiora. Yes. Thank you, Emily.
She's the best.
She is the best.
She's the best. And there's kind of this weird narrative out there that women don't help other women, which I actually think is BS. I have not experienced that. When I met Emily, she was working at a big ad network and I was working at a video game company, and she's like, hey, let's do a deal together. Of course, I love her energy. She's
so
just
great.
a light in the world. And when you're making business decisions, you're like, who are you going to give the job to? Someone you want to hang out with. It all goes back to the energy.
Yes, it's someone that has a positive energy. I mean, I joined a board and I was the youngest by 5 years, and I was a little bit intimidated when I went in because I didn't know anyone. And Emily walked up and said, "Let's go to lunch. I want to know you." She has such an intuitive nature for making someone feel welcome and positive and connecting people. She's one of the most incredible connectors.
I've met amazing people through her. I have other friends in my network like that, men and women. Oftentimes, when I mentor women friends who want career help, I really help them just focus on getting their head in the game and not showing up like they're an outsider from the get-go. There are ways to be included in things, whether it's showing data and getting initiatives that will help the company win, et cetera. You'll get sponsorship on those initiatives. There are things that are inherent to being a female in business currently that I hope do change, like being held to different performance standards. You get punished more harshly when you make mistakes than maybe other colleagues do. Your initiatives get questioned or scrutinized more harshly. But I think all that will change and evolve once there's more of us in leadership positions.
Yes, which is why I hope She Built It encourages more women to stay at work and to keep being innovative and to keep creating innovative companies and brands.
Yeah, and don't give up, right? Like I almost gave up a couple times. Being a founder is not easy. The mental health issues, the support that you need with the stress, the sense of responsibility, having to have your game face on all the time in and of itself. For me, I found the value in having coach support, being coached, really important because I needed a container where I could express some of my frustration in a way that you don't want to do as a leader all the time. It's one thing to let people feel connected to you and be open. I love Brene Brown's talks about vulnerability. But if I got on a plane and I saw the pilot sitting there with her head in her hands, like just kind of, or arguing with the crew, I would feel nervous about the next 4 hours of my life, right?
Yes. Yes. And you can't always have those conversations with your team, and you don't always want to have them with family members either, because, you want to have different moments with family members.
You're so right. So this is where having the coach really helped me. And I was very grateful. The investors that I have in TRIPP, the team at Alpha Bridge Ventures, who's one of our investors, they have created a whole coaching arm because they actually feel that if they can provide this level of support to the CEOs of the companies they've invested in, the companies will be more successful.
Of course.
And
really smart.
Yeah, it's super smart. And many of us are taught like we shouldn't have that kind of help, or we should have it all figured out. And that's not true. You need support. It's not easy to do. Most startups fail, and you need to know how to navigate the failure in a way where you don't give up, right? Failure and success are two sides of the same coin, just like grief and love are.
So true. Failure is an opportunity to learn. And for
it
growth.
Is incremental learning, right? And it might lead you to a better idea. I gave a talk on this once. Botox was created to fix crossed eyes. And when they started injecting it, they went, "Oh, look at that.
Interesting.
Smooth forehead and crow's feet. We can make more money off that. It's a larger market."
I love it. We all appreciate it.
Yeah, somebody else said Viagra was created for angina. And then when they started testing it, they saw some other results.
So interesting. So funny. And how our failures can lead to better ideas.
Or more profitable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Magic happens when we focus on the part of ourselves and our business that brings us joy. What is one tip you can leave with us today about how you find and live your joy?
Having a sense of purpose in what I do has really made me love showing up for my life, even when it's hard. And once I saw this mission or this concept for TRIPP emerge. And it actually came out of a meditation as I was moving through my grief after losing my husband. I got really excited about building and looking at this new stage of my life with optimism and hope. And every day I feel like I'm showing up with a contribution mindset, really, because I want to have that same sense of peace that Vic had when he left, when he took that last breath, and he felt like he had done a good job while he was here. And so for me, I break it down to what am I doing today as if it were my last day to make a difference in how I interact with people that I am connecting with every day, that I'm being kind and considerate and mindful, that when I make mistakes in those areas, that I immediately clean it up, and that I can finish my day with a sense of, I did good today. I showed up for my day fully. And sometimes that the best of my ability is to say, I'm going to stay in bed today and just watch TV and just rest because I need it. And so I would advise anybody who has a dream to build something to really be present for the journey of building as opposed to focused on the outcomes, because that process of iterating and course correcting and getting data in real time and letting it evolve organically, it might even lead you to a better outcome, as well as really get you connected to the journey itself. And that's something that I've felt has really brought a lot of peace and happiness to my life.
Such good advice to listen to yourself and show up with optimism and hope. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nanea. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. Can you please tell our listeners how and where they can find you?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Nanea, Nanea. You can hit me up there, and you can connect with us if you go to our website, tripp.com, TRIPP. Hit us up at our support email, support@tripp.com. We read all the emails and be happy to hear from you.
If you are new to She Built It, we'd love for you to join us. We offer community memberships, masterminds, innovative virtual events, and meaningful connections to entrepreneurs and corporate leaders. Please also check out our She Built It shop, curated products from women-owned businesses who put their heart and soul into their beautiful and innovative products. We offer She Built It business consulting and the She Built It blog. Thank you to everyone around the world who joined today. Thank you to my editor, Rich Streffolino. Please download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, together, let's let nothing stop us from experiencing the life that we crave.